Welcome back. So let's give some visibility to our my position component. It's currently like colorless, right? So in order to put some color to our my position component, we have to override the render method and draw something on the canvas. So inside my position component, I'm going to override the render method, Control O, then render, and this one over here, and I need to call super.canvas, super.render, and here we have a canvas so that we can draw a circle, rectangle, even we can draw lines and paths, so on and on. So we are going to fill some color to our position component, and we have to also specify or know the size of the component. So we know the size of the component with this size property. So what I'm going to do is inside this render method, I'm going to use the canvas, and I'm going to call one of the method called draw. Where is the suggestion? So canvas dot, we have some draw rect method. So if we want to draw a rectangle, then we have this draw rect method. So draw rect method actually, okay, maybe the error is all about importing this canvas. So I'm going to put my cursor on canvas and press Alt Enter and Dart EY. Okay. So now this draw rect method actually requires two things. One, a rect object. Second, a paint object. So a rect object is simply an object where we can specify the different points of a rectangle, like the top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, etc. and etc. But since we know the size of the component, we can convert this size to a rect object just like that. So as a first parameter, we are simply saying size dot, then we can call a method to rect. So this will convert the size to a rect object. So this size is actually a vector2 object, and now it becomes a rect object. And as a second parameter, we are going to provide a paint object. So we can create a paint object just like that, and then we can specify the color. Let's say the color could be like colors dot, let's say it is blue, and we need to perhaps import material.dirt. And when we import material.dirt, then we need to remove this dart.ui. And now if I run this application one more time, and now you will see a blue rectangle on the screen. Okay. Since the debug mode is true, we are looking at these borders with all the points. Okay. And now we can actually remove this debug mode or simply return false, but I'm keeping it like that just for a moment. Okay. So now we have some visibility for our position component. But one thing I want to ask you, that when we provided the position for this my position component, that means while we want to see this component on the screen, we provided a value of 200 by 200, which is 200 from X and 200 from Y. That means this point. So why the top left corner of this component is put at the defined position? Why not the top right? Why not the center? Why not the bottom left? Why not the bottom right? Why the top left corner? So this is where the anchor property comes in. So anchor for a component is a point based on which the position or the component is positioned on the screen. And by default, for any component, by default, the anchor is top left. So we can also specify the anchor inside our my position component, just like we mentioned the position, the size. We can also mention the anchor. And if I put the anchor as center, and you see that we can provide different anchor like center, top left, bottom left, center right, center left, etc. and etc. So I'm putting center just for now. And if I run this application, now we'll see an important change, which is now this position component is placed based on the anchor point. The anchor point is center, and this point is is exactly 200 by 200. Because now you see that this point, this top left corner is 150 and Y is 150, and this point is 250 and 250 because the size is 100. So entire size is 100, and this is the position, this is the 200. So if I go back half of the width of the rectangle, so this is, or maybe half of the size, which is 150, and the height is 150, and this is 250 by 250. So now this position component is positioned on the screen based on the provided position that we have provided, like 200 and 200, and the position component is placed based on the provided position based on the anchor point. So the anchor point is very important. Anchor point actually very crucial whenever we try to compute something, or even in future when we try to rotate this component clockwise or anti-clockwise, then the anchor point is very crucial because it is the point based on the rotation actually happens. Okay, so and another thing that we need to mention about position component, which is scale, that we saw in the documentation. What is the scale? So scale is something like zoom in or zoom out of a component. So this is like a normal scale. This position component, this component is positioned with this actual size 100 by 100, but we can actually increase the size or increase the scale. So we have a property called scale, and scale is also a vector too. And if we provide 1 by 1, 1 means the full scale, I mean the original size. So if I hit save or rerun this application, nothing changes. But if I increase the value or decrease the value, for example 0.5, and Y value is 0.5, so the X value of this position component, the width will be half and the height will be half. And if I run this application, and you see now the width has been reduced to half and the height has been reduced to half. If I say 1.5 and 1.5, then the size of this position component will be increased by 1.5. If I run this application, now you see something different, and also the coordinates of this top left and bottom right corner has been changed accordingly. And the last thing I want to mention about the angle, and I want to put the original scale. I can provide 1.0 for X, 1.0 for Y. And if we just put like this, we don't have to specify the scale because the default scale is 1 by 1. And also about the angle I want to talk about. So what is the angle of this component? Or what if I want to rotate this component clockwise or anti-clockwise? So if I go to the official documentation page, and about the angle, it says we have two types of angle, which is the angle and the native angle. And if you see this table, you will know about the angle. So the up or north direction, I mean, in this case, if we go up along the y-axis or negative y-axis, so if this is north, if this is south, this is east or west or top, bottom, right or left, the angle would be, if we point to the up direction, the native angle is 0 and degrees in 0. If we go downwards, then the native angle would be pi or minus pi. That means 180 or minus 180. If we go left, that means minus pi by 2 minus 90 degrees. And if we go right, which is 90 degree. So this is the original form of this position component, and this is pointing, if we don't mention the angle otherwise, then it is pointing upwards. That means the angle is 0. So this is 0, this is 90, positive 90, this is positive 180, this is 270, and this is 360. Okay, and the angle is measured in radians, not degrees. So for example, if I want to rotate this my position component clockwise to the right to certain degree, for example 1 radian, I'm not actually familiar with radians. I'm very much comfortable with degrees, and there is a conversion, a law that will convert a radian to degrees. If I go our browser, if I go to browser and say degree to radian, degree to radian. So this is the value we need to add to a degree value to convert it to a radian. So 0.17154533. So I'm going to copy this. And then I'm going to paste somewhere. First of all, I want to provide the angle. So the angle is 0 by default, but now I'm going to say, let's say 45 degrees. I want to rotate this box 45 degrees to the right, I mean clockwise. So this is degree value. This is degree. So if I don't do anything, that it will assume that this is in radian value. So 45 radian is very, very big. I mean, it will like complete more rotations or several rotations. So I want to convert this degree value to radian. So I'm going to multiply this to whatever I have copied previously. So now if I run this application one more time, now you see that this entire rectangle has been rotated clockwise to the right 45 degrees. Okay. So if I put a minus sign, so it will go the other way. So now this position component has been rotated 45 degree to the left or west. So this is minus. Okay. So this is how we can actually rotate a component. So these are the 5 main features of a position component. The position, that means where we want to put our component on the game screen. This is the size of the position component or our component, and the current size is 100 by 100. This is the anchor and this is the center based on which that will be positioned on the screen. This is the scale, currently 1. That means no zoom in, no zoom out. This is the original form. And the angle is minus 45 degrees. That means to the left.